Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your source material and, well, we pull out the most important insights just for you. And today we have a fascinating challenge. We're trying to synthesize the lectionary readings for the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And this isn't just, a random collection of texts. It's a very deliberate juxtaposition.
It really is. We're looking at three, radically different scriptural styles. You've got ancient prophecy, high cosmic drama, and then this incredibly intimate personal story.
Okay, so what's our mission with this?
The mission is to see how these texts fit together to uncover one central insight. How does this monumental promise of God's presence actually show up in a personal, specific, real-world encounter?
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the groundwork, right? The promise that sets the stage. So we're opening with the prophet Zechariah.
Right. Zechariah is providing the ultimate theological foundation here. It's not just a prediction. It's a declaration of intent, really, a plan to fundamentally change the relationship between God and humanity.
And the core of that passage from Zechariah 2 is this really visceral invitation to celebrate. It says, "Sing and rejoice, O daughter Zion. See, I am coming to dwell among you."
And that phrase, "to dwell among you," that's the revolution.
How so? Given the distance between God and humanity you often see in older texts, what's so radical about that?
Well, that immediacy is everything. Before this, the divine presence was often, restricted.
To a specific place, right?
Exactly. To the ark, the temple, a pillar of fire. It was contained, sacred, and frankly, often terrifying. This promise changes the whole geography of faith. It says the sacred is going to be domestic, the divine will be accessible.
So it moves from the high altar to, what, the village square?
To the common ground, yes. And the vision isn't restrictive. Zechariah immediately goes global with it.
Right. He says, "Many nations shall join themselves to the Lord on that day." It's like this presence is a universal magnet.
It is. It's establishing a dual restoration. First, of Jerusalem as the spiritual center. The Lord will possess Judah, and he will again choose Jerusalem. But that inclusion of many nations shifts the focus outward in this dramatic way.
So the promise transcends any kind of national boundary.
Absolutely. And then there's this instruction that follows, which is just as immense. Silence all mankind in the presence of the Lord.
It's a call for universal reverence, a recognition that something truly cosmic is about to unfold.
It's that moment of pause, the collective deep breath before the fulfillment. And that leads us perfectly into the response, which our sources give us in the responsorial psalm from Judith.
And we shift instantly.
Yeah.
From future prophecy to present-day praise. Judith gives us this incredibly powerful example of one person's action being celebrated as the highest achievement of the whole community.
This is such a key move. The prophecy is universal, but the response here is focused on a specific deed of hope. The people cry out, "You are the highest honor of our race."
So the praise is directed at someone who actually lived out the kind of faith that makes that divine presence possible.
Yes, it connects that grand, sweeping vision of Zechariah to a concrete, recognizable human model. The text blesses Judith above all the women on earth, but then it guarantees her memory. It says, "Your deed of hope will never be forgotten."
And that phrase, deed of hope, that feels like the linchpin, especially when we think about the Guadalupe story this is all pointing to.
It's the key connection. It tells us that these massive divine plans are often made real through one person's brave, faithful response. Faith is anchored in memory, in storytelling.
Okay, so we've got the foundation. A universal promise of God dwelling among us, and it's confirmed by the power of an individual's faithful action. Now let's jump to the cosmic context, because this is where the drama just accelerates.
It really does.
We're moving from prophecy to this high-stakes apocalyptic imagery in the book of Revelation.
This is the theatrical stage for our deep dive. The scale shifts instantly. We're not in an earthly community anymore. We're in the heavenly temple. And the scene opens with that temple being thrown open.
And the Ark of His Covenant could be seen in the temple. So the promise itself is right there, visible.
And what follows immediately is the main sign, one of the most powerful and, frankly, most debated images in all of apocalyptic literature.
The woman clothed with the sun.
That's the one. It's the ultimate manifestation of heavenly glory applied to a human figure. We see a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars.
We can't just slide past that. For you listening, what is packed into that language? Why the sun, moon, and stars?
It's a fusion of creation and royalty. The sun and moon represent cosmic authority. It places her above the entire created order.
And the 12 stars.
That immediately recalls the 12 tribes of Israel. It symbolizes the people of God. So she's a representative, maybe the pinnacle of that entire history of faith. But here's the tension. Despite all this glory, she's intensely vulnerable.
Right, she's with child and wailed aloud in pain as she labored to give birth.
Glory and pain, side by side. And that vulnerability immediately attracts opposition. The second sign appears, the antagonist, the huge red dragon.
And this dragon is just pure malevolence. 7 heads and 10 horns, and on its heads were 7 diadems.
The heads and horns, historically, they often symbolize the totality of earthly, anti-divine political power, all of it gathered against God's purposes.
And the scale of this spiritual war is just staggering. Its tail swept away a third of the stars in the sky and hurled them down to the earth.
It shows this isn't some minor skirmish. This is a profound battle for control over creation itself. And the dragon's focus is singular.
Laser focused.
Yes. It stood before the woman to devour her child when she gave birth. The entire cosmic drama hinges on the fate of this newborn.
So walk us through the conflict, the resolution.
Well, she gives birth to a son, a male child, destined to rule all the nations with an iron rod. So the destiny is clear from the start, and the protection is immediate. The child was caught up to God and his throne.
The ultimate safe haven.
It's the ultimate victory against the dragon's immediate threat. It secures the future. But the woman herself is still in danger. She fled into the desert where she had a place prepared by God.
A strategic retreat. It shows that while the child is safe, the faithful community, who the woman represents, still has this journey of perseverance ahead.
Exactly. And the whole scene culminates with this loud voice from heaven, which basically synthesizes everything. It declares the new reality, now have salvation and power come, and the kingdom of our God.
So it frames the entire cosmic conflict as necessary. Necessary for realizing the promise we started with back in Zechariah.
Precisely. It brings it all back down to earth by connecting it to establishing the kingdom. But if the dragon and the woman represent this ultimate cosmic scale of reality, our source material now makes an incredibly sharp pivot, almost disorienting.
We shift completely from the apocalyptic battleground in the sky to a single small house in the hill country. We are in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 1, the visitation.
And this transition, this is the central insight of the whole deep dive. How does the woman clothed with the sun, the mother of the world's ruler, show up in a modest human setting?
She just sets out in haste to a town of Judah, enters a house, and greets her cousin Elizabeth. So simple.
The power here isn't in some grand gesture. It's entirely focused on presence and on sound. The key is the immediate, visceral, and theological reaction to Mary's voice.
The divine presence that Zechariah promised, the one revelation fought to protect, it all shows up in a greeting.
It manifests in a sensory way, and the very first reaction is physical confirmation. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the infant leaped in her womb.
That leap, that's the turning point. It's this instant recognition of the Lord's presence, even before birth.
And that physical reaction immediately triggers a spiritual one in Elizabeth. She was filled with the Holy Spirit and just cries out.
And her cry connects this personal moment right back to the cosmic scale we just left.
It does. She says, "Most blessed are you among women. And how does this happen to me, that the mother of my Lord should come to me?" She gets it. She recognizes the magnitude of her visitor, not by sight, but through the spirit and the reaction of the child inside her.
It's the simple greeting that carries all that divine power. Elizabeth makes the link for us. "For at the moment the sound of your greeting reached my ears, the infant in my womb leaped for joy."
Yes. And then Elizabeth says the most important thing. She defines the true source of Mary's blessing. It's not just about motherhood, it's about faith.
This is the critical line.
It is. She says, "Blessed are you who believed that what was spoken to you by the Lord would be fulfilled." That's it. The promise from Zechariah, the protection in Revelation, it all hinges on this one humble act of personal belief.
And Mary's response to this recognition is the Magnificat, one of the most powerful hymns of praise ever recorded. It's this revolutionary song.
A perfect theological response. She doesn't take the credit. She doesn't accept the blessing as personal glory. She immediately redirects it.
"My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God my Savior."
Exactly. The Magnificat ties her personal role right back into those universal themes. God bringing down the powerful, lifting up the lowly. It's a profound link back to that deed of hope we talked about with Judith. It shows how individual praise fuels the faith of the whole community.
So we've taken this extraordinary journey From an ancient promise of global inclusion through a battle in the heavens, and we've landed in this small domestic room where the power of God's presence is felt, through a greeting and a leaping baby.
And that synthesis is everything. The lectionary designers put these readings together to make a singular point. The monumental scale of God's plan is always revealed in humble, deeply personal encounters. This is the lens for understanding the feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe.
The idea that the cosmic woman from Revelation can appear on a simple hill to a humble messenger like Juan Diego. The cosmic glory validates the personal encounter.
Yes. And that context makes the devotional reflection piece in our sources so much richer.
Right. So what does this joyful encounter actually do? The text says Mary's visit reveals how God's presence stirs life, hope, and praise within those who welcome him.
It also reinforces the need to share faith. That's something that can get lost in purely personal devotion. The story in Luke shows that faith becomes stronger, it becomes amplified when it's shared with others who are also seeking.
Mary goes to Elizabeth, and the faith of both women is confirmed and made joyful.
And the source of that joy isn't some distant reward, it's internal recognition. The text says true joy comes from recognizing his works in our lives. It's an awareness that translates into proclamation. That's what the Magnificat is.
Which leads to the final, really practical invitation this deep dive offers you, the listener. This whole arc, from Zechariah to Luke, it invites us to carry Christ to others with the same eagerness and gratitude that filled Mary's heart. It turns this cosmic narrative into a personal, actionable mission.
And the text even gives you a focus to carry forward from this.
It does. It asks, what simple act of kindness can I offer today to bring your joy to someone who needs encouragement? The sheer complexity of the divine plan, in the end, it rests on the simple, shared act of faith and kindness.
We really moved through time and space in this deep dive. We started with this future prophecy of many nations joining the Lord, navigated Revelation's cosmic kingdom, and grounded it all in the spontaneous joy of a small house in the hill country.
They really do demand that we appreciate both scales at once. The monumental divine action and the profound revolutionary power of personal shared faith.
You have to hold them both together.
So what does this all mean for you as you move through your day? This deep dive leaves you with a final provocative thought. The sources celebrate a person who is the highest honor of our race, not for conquering armies, not for holding power, but for believing, and for sharing her joyful presence with a friend.
That's a powerful summary.
It just makes you wonder, doesn't it, when the cosmos is at stake, like Revelation suggests, how often is the most consequential action you can take simply the quiet, humble, joyful act of visiting someone in haste? Think about the impact your presence, fueled by your own conviction, can have on those around you today.